First contact deception. Grand Admiral Kizther stood before the holographic display, his four compound eyes scanning the strategic map with predatory intensity. Around him, the high command of the galactic hegemony, representatives of the 7 most powerful species in the known universe, watched in silence as he manipulated the 3-dimensional projection. The human expansion has reached here, he said, using one of his chitinous appendages to indicate a spiral arm of the galaxy. They have colonized 17 systems in the last 30 Earth years. Their technological progress is concerning. Supreme Overseer Vol, the eldest member of the Quarian race and de facto leader of the Hegemony Council, leaned forward. His translucent skin pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that betrayed his agitation. You believe they represent a threat. The universal translator rendered his clicking speech into something the others could understand. I believe they represent an inevitability, Kizther replied. Their development curve is unprecedented. If left unchecked, they will surpass our technological capabilities within 50 cycles. The hegemony has maintained peace for 8,000 years by ensuring no single species can challenge our collective might. Military strategist Doran, a burly Tyrillian with steel-gray scales, nodded in agreement. We've observed their transmissions. They are fractious, violent, unpredictable. Their entertainment alone glorifies conflict and rebellion. And yet, interjected Science Director Aurelia, her feathered crest rising in what her species recognized as skepticism, they have unified their homeworld in a way few species manage without outside intervention. Their United Earth government has maintained relative stability for nearly a century, which only makes them more dangerous, Kizther countered. I propose we eliminate the threat now, while we maintain overwhelming superiority. Our combined fleet can sterilize their core worlds before they realize what's happening. A murmur ran through the chamber as the council members communicated with their respective advisors through neural links. After a moment, Supreme Overseer Vol raised his hand for silence. The genocide of an emerging spacefaring species is not a decision to be taken lightly, he said. But I acknowledge the logic of Admiral Kizther's assessment. We will dispatch the 7th Armada to the edge of human space as a show of force. Perhaps they will recognize the futility of resistance and accept client status peacefully. In the darkened command center of Earth's orbital defense platform Alpha, General Sofia Ramirez studied the incoming data with growing concern. The quantum entanglement sensors had detected the mobilization of a massive alien fleet, moving with clear purpose toward human-controlled space. How many ships? She asked, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. Lieutenant Davidson checked the readings again. Over 3,000 vessels, General. Various classes, but at least 500 appear to be capital ships. Energy readings suggest weapons technology significantly beyond our current capabilities. Ramirez closed her eyes momentarily. Humanity had known they weren't alone in the galaxy since establishing their first extrasolar colony 20 years ago. They had detected signals, observed distant spacecraft, even recovered alien artifacts. But direct contact had remained elusive. Until now, it seemed. Has the Security Council been notified? Yes, Mom. They're convening an emergency session. The President will address the United Nations within the hour. And Project Prometheus. Davidson hesitated. Dr. John confirms it's operational, but untested under real conditions. It seems the test is coming to us, Ramirez said grimly. 72 hours later, the United Earth Security Council reached its decision. Secretary General Adeyemi stood before the assembled representatives of humanity, his face solemn but resolved. After careful deliberation and consultation with our best scientific and military minds, we have decided on our response to the approaching alien armada. We will dispatch a single vessel, the UES Prometheus, under the command of Captain Maya Chen. The Prometheus will approach the alien fleet under a flag of diplomacy. Shocked murmurs filled the chamber. A single ship against thousands. It seemed like madness or a suicide mission. I understand your concerns, Adeyemi continued, raising his hand. But the Prometheus is not a conventional vessel. It represents the culmination of 2 decades of reverse engineering the technology we've gleaned from recovered alien artifacts. We believe it gives us a unique advantage. And sometimes, the boldest move is the one your opponent least expects. Aboard the hegemony flagship Indomitable Resolve, Admiral Kizther received the report with incredulity. "They've dispatched a single vessel," he chittered, mandibles clicking rapidly. "Confirm this information." "Confirmed, Admiral," replied his second-in-command. "Our long-range sensors detect only one ship approaching our position. It is broadcasting on multiple frequencies what appears to be a request for diplomatic contact." Analysis of the vessel. Curious design. Approximately 400 meters in length. No obvious weapons arrays that we can detect. Hull composition is unusual. Our scanners have difficulty penetrating it. Kizther's compound eyes narrowed. A deception, perhaps, or a sacrificial probe to assess our capabilities. "The vessel is transmitting an audio-visual communication, Admiral. The message is being translated now." The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a human female in what appeared to be a formal uniform. Her dark hair was pulled back tightly, emphasizing sharp cheekbones and alert, intelligent eyes. "Greetings to the commanders of the approaching fleet. I am Captain Maya Chen of the United Earth ship Prometheus. We come in peace, seeking dialogue rather than conflict. We request permission to approach and establish direct communications. We believe there is much our civilizations can learn from one another." Admiral Kizther studied the human's face, searching for signs of fear or deception. He found neither, only a calm confidence that he found oddly disconcerting. "This is either remarkable courage or remarkable foolishness," he said to no one in particular. Supreme Overseer Vol, who had joined the Admiral on the flagship to observe the first contact, moved closer to the screen. "Perhaps it is both. The psychological profile our experts compiled suggests humans often blur the line between these qualities." After a moment's consideration, Kizther nodded. "Inform the human vessel they may approach to a distance of 1,000 kilometers. They will then hold position while we send a shuttle to retrieve their representatives. Maximum of 3 delegates." "Is that wise, Admiral?" asked military strategist Doran. "Allowing them aboard our flagship. They will be thoroughly scanned and disarmed," Kizther replied. "And it provides an opportunity to assess these humans directly before we decide their fate." The UES Prometheus maintained a perfect holding pattern, exactly 1,000 kilometers from the massive alien flagship. Captain Maya Chen stood in her quarters, making final adjustments to her dress uniform. Her reflection showed no hint of the tension she felt. 20 years of military service had taught her to compartmentalize her emotions, and never had that skill been more necessary than now. A chime announced the arrival of her executive officer, Commander Raj Patel, and Dr. Eliza Novak, the mission's scientific specialist. "The alien shuttle will dock in 20 minutes, Patel reported. "Are you certain about this, Captain?" "Once we're on their ship." "I'm certain about the mission, Commander," Chen replied. "The details. We'll adapt as necessary." Dr. Novak stepped forward, her fingers nervously adjusting the data tablet she carried. "The translator implants have been calibrated with all the linguistic data we've been able to gather. They should allow real-time communication, assuming the aliens use sound-based language." "And if they don't?" Chen asked. Novak smiled thinly. "Then we'll resort to interpretive dance." The tension in the room broke momentarily as both officers chuckled. Chen appreciated the scientist's attempt at humor, knowing it masked the same anxiety they all felt. "What about the package?" Chen asked, her tone becoming serious again. Patel nodded. "Ready for deployment on your command. Dr. Zhang's team assures me it will function as designed." "Let's hope we don't need it," Chen said quietly. She straightened her uniform one last time. "Humanity's future may hinge on the next few hours. Let's make them count." The alien shuttle was a marvel of engineering. its interior spaces somehow adapting to comfortably accommodate the humans despite being designed for very different physiologies. As they approached the flagship, Chen gazed out the viewport at the vast armada surrounding them. Ships of various designs and sizes filled space as far as she could see, a display of military might intended to intimidate. "That's a lot of firepower for a diplomatic mission," Novak whispered. Chen's expression remained neutral. "Perspective, Doctor. They see our expansion as we once saw bacterial cultures in a petri dish, a potential infection to be contained. And we're here to convince them otherwise. We're here to change the parameters of the equation," Chen replied cryptically, as the shuttle docked with a subtle vibration. The technological gambit. The Grand Council chamber of the hegemony flagship hummed with tension. Representatives of all 7 ruling species had gathered to hear the human delegation. Captain Chen stood at the center of the massive circular room, surrounded by alien dignitaries and military officials. For many, this was their first direct observation of a human, and their reactions ranged from curiosity to disgust to wary respect. "You claim to offer the hegemony something of value," Supreme Overseer Val began, his translucent form pulsing with patterns that the human translator interpreted as skepticism. "Yet your species has existed as a unified governmental entity for less than 2 centuries and achieved faster-than-light travel only 40 years ago." Chen nodded, acknowledging the point. "By your standards, we are indeed young. But perhaps that's precisely what gives us value." "Explain," demanded Admiral Keisther, his chitinous appendages clicking impatiently. "The hegemony has maintained stability across thousands of systems for 8 millennia, Chen said. "An impressive achievement by any measure. But stability, when taken to extremes, leads to stagnation. When was the last time the hegemony developed a truly revolutionary technology? Not an incremental improvement, but something that fundamentally changed how you understand the universe." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The avian science director Aurelia ruffled her feathers in what appeared to be irritation. "We have perfected our technologies over thousands of years," she said. "What you perceive as stagnation, we recognize as mastery." Chen smiled. "Perhaps, or perhaps your very longevity has become a weakness. Humans live short lives compared to most of your species. Our scientists and engineers know they have limited time to make their mark on history. This drives an innovative urgency that longer-lived species might lack." "Pretty words," growled military strategist Doran. "But we have seen no evidence of this supposed innovation. Your vessels, your weapons, your energy generation, all primitive by our standards. What you have observed represents what we've chosen to reveal," Chen countered. She removed a small device from her pocket and placed it on the floor before her. With a tap of her finger, a holographic display sprang to life, showing complex schematics that slowly rotated in the air. "This is one of several hundred patents filed in the last Earth year alone. It describes a method of quantum communication that eliminates the need for entangled particles, allowing instantaneous transmission across unlimited distances with perfect security." Science Director Aurelia moved closer, her eyes narrowing as she studied the display. "This is theoretical at best. Such technology would violate several fundamental principles of quantum mechanics." "As understood by the hegemony," Chen agreed. "Our approach comes from a different direction. We've already implemented a primitive version aboard the Prometheus." Admiral Keisther clicked his mandibles rapidly, a sign of agitation. "If what you claim is true, it would revolutionize our communications networks. But it would also render our most secure channels vulnerable." "Only if we were your enemies," Chen said quietly. "We need not be." The chamber erupted in multiple conversations as the alien representatives conferred with their advisors. Supreme Overseer Val raised his upper limbs for silence, the bioluminescent patterns across his translucent skin shifting to commanding reds and purples. "You come before us with impressive claims, Captain Chen. Yet the fundamental question remains unanswered. Why should the hegemony risk incorporating a volatile young species into our careful balance? Humans are unpredictable, fractious, and by your own admission, driven by their mortality to take risks other species would not. Chen's expression remained composed. Because the universe is not as stable as you believe. The hegemony has maintained peace within its borders, yes, but at what cost? How many potential threats have you eliminated before they could challenge you? How many civilizations have you stunted or destroyed because they developed along paths you could not control? A heavy silence fell over the chamber. Chen had voiced what was rarely acknowledged openly, the hegemony's ruthless pragmatism in maintaining its dominance. You tread dangerous ground, human, Doran growled, his scaled hand moving instinctively toward the ceremonial weapon at his side. I speak truth, strategist, Chen replied without flinching. And I offer an alternative to the path you're currently considering for humanity. Val's skin pulsed with curious patterns. And what path do you believe we are considering? Containment, subjugation, or, if we resist, elimination. Chen's voice remained steady. All options your hegemony has employed before when faced with species you deem threatening. You dare, began Doran, but Admiral Kizther raised an appendage, silencing him. The human speaks directly. I find it refreshing, if uncomfortable. The Admiral's compound eyes fixed on Chen. What alternative do you propose, Captain? Alliance, Chen said simply. Not as a client state, but as a partner. Humanity brings innovation, adaptability, and fresh perspectives. The hegemony offers stability, resources, and accumulated wisdom. Together, we could address challenges neither could solve alone. Such as, prompted Science Director Aurelia, her scientific curiosity clearly piqued despite her skepticism. Chen gestured, and the holographic display shifted to show new schematics. Long-range sensors from our outposts in the Ta-CD system have detected anomalous energy signatures from beyond the galactic rim. Our scientists believe they indicate artificial structures of immense scale, possibly a megastructure civilization observing our galaxy. The revelation sent another wave of murmurs through the chamber. Aurelia stepped closer to the display, her feathers quivering with excitement or alarm. If confirmed, this would be significant, she admitted. We have theoretical models suggesting such civilizations might exist, but no concrete evidence. We're willing to share all our data, Chen said, and collaborate on further investigation, but only as equals, not subjects. Supreme Overseer Val conferred quietly with his advisors, the patterns of light across his body shifting rapidly through various colors. Finally, he addressed the human delegation again. Your proposal merits consideration, Captain Chen. However, the integration of a new major power into the hegemony would require significant adjustments to our existing protocols and power balances. Translation. Some of us would lose influence, muttered Commander Patel, though only Chen and Dr. Novik could hear him through their private communication channel. We understand this would be a complex transition, Chen acknowledged. We're prepared to proceed gradually with appropriate safeguards for all parties. Military strategist Doran stepped forward, his massive frame looming over the human delegation. Words and holograms prove nothing. If humans possess such advanced technology, why arrive in a single, apparently unarmed vessel? Why not demonstrate your strength? Because we came to talk, not to threaten, Chen replied. Unlike the hegemony, which positioned 3,000 warships on the edge of our territory. A prudent precaution, Doran snapped, one that seems increasingly justified. Before Chen could respond, an alarm sounded throughout the chamber. Admiral Kizther received an urgent communication through his neural link, his compound eyes widening in surprise. Impossible, he chittered. Confirm and isolate. What's happening? Demanded Val. A security breach, Kizther replied. Something has penetrated our network firewalls and is accessing classified systems. All eyes turned to the human delegation. Chen raised her hand slightly. Not our doing, Admiral. Perhaps a demonstration of what I was explaining earlier, the dangers of complacency. Explain, Kizther demanded, moving menacingly toward Chen. Your cybersecurity architecture hasn't been fundamentally redesigned in over 3 centuries, Chen said calmly. You've added layers of protection, yes, but the core logic remains the same. Any system with such deep structural consistencies becomes vulnerable over time, no matter how many surface improvements you make. On the main display screen that dominated one wall of the chamber, data began scrolling rapidly. Ship movements, defense protocols, communication logs. The hegemony officials watched in growing horror as their most classified information was displayed for all to see. Stop this immediately, Doran roared, drawing his weapon and pointing it at Chen. We can't stop what we didn't start, Dr. Novak interjected, speaking for the first time since entering the chamber. But we can help you contain it. Chen nodded to her scientific advisor, who stepped forward and interfaced her data tablet with the hegemony systems. After a tense 30 seconds of rapid input, the scrolling data stopped, and the screens returned to normal. A temporary fix, Novak explained. I've isolated the affected subsystems and implemented a quantum encryption protocol that should hold for approximately 72 hours. After that, the intrusion will likely adapt unless more permanent solutions are applied. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. A human scientist had just demonstrated the ability to affect hegemony systems in ways their own experts apparently could not. Supreme Overseer Val's skin had paled to an almost translucent white. You orchestrated this. A demonstration of your capabilities. Perhaps even the biological/machine distinction itself. They appear to be observing multiple galaxies, perhaps preparing for expansion. Or they could be entirely benign, suggested Aurelia. Possibly, Chen acknowledged. But can the hegemony, or humanity, afford to make that assumption without investigation, especially given the intrusions we've both experienced in our networks? Val conferred briefly with his advisors, then addressed the human captain again. You will release control of our vessels as a show of good faith. Of course, Chen agreed. Once formal alliance protocols are established, my government has prepared a draft agreement that preserves the hegemony's existing structure while incorporating humanity as a full partner rather than a subject species. She transmitted a document to the Council's shared display. You'll find the terms fair and respectful of your traditions. We ask only for equal standing and mutual defense commitments. As the Council members reviewed the document, an urgent communication reached Admiral Kizther. His reaction drew everyone's attention. Long-range sensors have detected a new anomaly, he announced. A spatial distortion at the edge of the system. Something is emerging. The main display shifted to show real-time sensor data. A massive structure was taking form, not a conventional spacecraft, but something that seemed to exist partially in normal space and partially elsewhere. Its dimensions were difficult to measure, but it dwarfed even the largest hegemony vessels. Is this your doing? Doran demanded, turning to Chen. She shook her head, genuine surprise evident in her expression. No, but I suspect it's why we're all here today. The structure continued to materialize, resolving into what appeared to be an immense lattice of energy and matter extending across thousands of kilometers. Within its framework, smaller objects moved with purpose, perhaps vessels, perhaps beings, perhaps both simultaneously. We're receiving a transmission, reported one of the hegemony communications officers. It's unlike anything in our records. Multiple overlapping frequencies, quantum entangled particles, and what appears to be direct neural interfacing attempts. Isolate it, ordered Kizther. Use the human security protocols if necessary. Chen activated her communicator. Dr. Novak, assist the hegemony technicians with isolating and translating the transmission. As they worked, Chen turned to Supreme Overseer of all. It appears our discussion of alliance has become rather more urgent, Overseer. Whatever, or whoever, that is, I suspect they've been watching us for some time. The network intrusions may have been their equivalent of reconnaissance. Val's skin had paled to an almost colorless transparency, a sign of extreme stress among his species. Your assessment appears correct, Captain. Perhaps you were right about the value of human perspective. We failed to detect this presence despite 8 millennia of astronomical observation. Different perspectives see different threats, Chen said simply, and find different solutions. Together, we're stronger than either of us alone. After several tense minutes, the communication system activated. The being that appeared on the display defied easy description, a shifting amalgamation of organic and technological elements, constantly reconfiguring itself as it communicated. We observe the convergence of biological intelligence, far aim, your case, it began, its voice simultaneously coming through the speakers and seeming to resonate directly in the "No," Chen said firmly, but we anticipated it might happen. The same anomalous energy signatures we detected beyond the galactic rim have been accompanied by subtle probes of all advanced communications networks in this sector. Yours, ours, and others we've identified. Admiral Kizther's compound eyes narrowed. You're suggesting a third party is observing our interaction. I'm suggesting that the hegemony and humanity may both face challenges greater than each other, Chen replied, and that we might be stronger facing them together. After a lengthy silence, Val signaled to his security detail. The human delegation will be escorted to secure quarters while the Council deliberates. Admiral, assemble your best cybersecurity experts to verify Dr. Novik's claims and solutions. As they were led from the chamber, Commander Patel leaned close to Captain Chen. That went about as expected, he murmured. Phase 1 complete, Chen agreed quietly. Now we wait for them to realize they need us more than we need them. In the secure quarters, luxurious but clearly designed for monitoring, the human delegation gathered around a small table. Chen activated a personal jamming device disguised as a decorative pin on her uniform, creating a bubble of privacy against surveillance. Dr. Novik, your assessment of their systems. The scientist smiled. Exactly as our intelligence suggested, advanced but predictable. Their quantum computing is impressive, but follows conventional logic paths. The security protocol I implemented will give them a taste of what we can offer, but I've engineered it to degrade gradually. They'll be back for more. And the package? Chen asked, turning to Commander Patel. In place and undetected, he confirmed. Ready for activation on your command. Chen nodded, satisfaction evident in her expression for the first time since their arrival. Then we proceed as planned. The hegemony believes they're deciding our fate, but the truth is quite the opposite. Do you think they'll agree to the alliance? Novik asked. Some will, Chen replied. Others will push for our subjugation or elimination. Our job is to make the former option so attractive and the latter so untenable that even the most conservative elements of their leadership see reason. And if they don't? Patil asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. Captain Chen's expression hardened. Then we demonstrate why sending a fleet against Earth would have been their last mistake. The silent revolution. 3 days had passed since the human delegation's presentation to the Hegemony Council. 3 days of intense debate among the alien leadership, punctuated by increasingly frequent system malfunctions throughout the fleet. As promised, Dr. Novik's temporary fix had held, but was now beginning to degrade. More concerning to Admiral Kizther were the reports from his technical staff. They couldn't replicate her solution, despite their best efforts. In the private chambers assigned to Supreme Overseer Vol, the highest-ranking members of the Council had gathered for a final decision regarding humanity. The mood was tense, divisions obvious among the 7 elder races. The humans must be contained, insisted military strategist Duran, his scales flushed dark with agitation. Their technology is advancing too rapidly. The quantum communication system they demonstrated violates principles we've considered immutable for millennia. If they can challenge that, what other foundations of our understanding might they overturn? Science Director Aurelia bobbed her head in her species gesture of qualified agreement. Their innovation is concerning, yes, but also potentially valuable. Dr. Novak's cybersecurity solution alone would revolutionize our defensive capabilities, and their detection of extragalactic structures, if verified, represents a significant astronomical discovery. A discovery they could be fabricating to manipulate us, countered Trade Minister Kforel, his gelatinous form quivering with suspicion. We have only their word and their holograms as evidence. Admiral Kisther clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. True, but our preliminary analysis suggests their quantum communication technology is genuine. Our best engineers are still studying the principles, but they confirm it functions as claimed. Supreme Overseer Val, who had been listening silently, finally spoke. We face a decision point unlike any in recent hegemony history. Traditionally, we would have three options: incorporate humanity as a client species, contain their expansion through force if necessary, or eliminate the threat they potentially pose. The third option remains the safest, Doran insisted. Does it? Questioned Aurelia. We still don't fully understand their capabilities. Captain Chen arrived in a single vessel, apparently unarmed, yet demonstrated the ability to affect our most secure systems. Not directly, Doran corrected. They claim the system breach was external. A claim our own monitoring appears to confirm, Kisther noted. The intrusion originated from outside our security perimeter. Val's skin pulsed with the patterns that indicated deep thought among his species. I propose a test. We will inform the humans that we have decided to contain their expansion. Their planets may remain independent, but they must dismantle their interstellar fleet and accept hegemony supervision of all future technological development. They will refuse, predicted Aurelia. Almost certainly, Val agreed. But their response will be informative. If they truly possess capabilities beyond our understanding, they will demonstrate them rather than accept subjugation. If they are bluffing, they will either capitulate or make a futile show of resistance. After brief deliberation, the council agreed to Val's proposal. Captain Chen was summoned to receive their decision. In the Grand Council chamber, Chen stood alone this time, having requested that Commander Patel and Dr. Novak remain behind to prepare for any outcome. She listened impassively as Supreme Overseer Val outlined the hegemony's terms, essentially demanding humanity's surrender of sovereignty while couching it in diplomatic language. When he finished, Chen remained silent for several moments, her expression unreadable. The chamber was utterly still, every alien representative watching intently for her reaction. I appreciate the Council's thorough consideration, she finally said, her voice calm and measured. However, I must inform you that these terms are unacceptable to humanity. We came seeking partnership, not subjugation. You are in no position to refuse, Doran growled. The combined might of the hegemony fleet stands ready to enforce our decision. Chen smiled slightly. With respect, strategist, you might want to check on the status of your fleet before making such assertions. As if on cue, alarms began blaring throughout the chamber. Admiral Kisther received multiple urgent communications simultaneously, his compound eyes widening as he processed the information. Impossible, he chittered, mandibles clicking rapidly in distress. Ships throughout the fleet are reporting critical system failures. Weapons, propulsion, life support, all compromised. What have you done? Demanded Val, his skin flashing warning patterns of bright red and yellow. We've demonstrated an alternative approach, Chen replied. When I said we came in a single ship, that was technically accurate. But I never claimed the Prometheus was our only asset in this encounter. She raised her wrist communicator. Commander Patel, status report. Patel's voice came through clearly. Package fully deployed, Captain. 97% of hegemony vessels have been successfully accessed. Critical systems remain under our control, but life support and crew safety protocols are unaffected. Science Director Aurelia stepped forward, feathers bristling. You've activated some form of cyber weapon, but our systems are isolated, hardened against such attacks. Not a cyber weapon, Chen corrected. Something far more sophisticated. For the past 3 days, quantum-scale machines have been infiltrating your fleet. Devices smaller than your scanning technology can detect. They've integrated with your systems at the molecular level, allowing us precise control. The chamber erupted in chaos as the hegemony officials grasped the implications. Admiral Kizther moved toward Chen, weapon raised, but froze as his neural link suddenly disconnected, leaving him momentarily disoriented. This is the reality the hegemony must now accept, Chen continued, her voice cutting through the pandemonium. Humanity could disable your entire fleet with a single command. We could have done so the moment we arrived. Instead, we chose dialogue. Supreme Overseer Vol raised his limbs, calling for order. When the chamber quieted, he addressed Chen with new respect and wariness in his posture. You've made your point forcefully, Captain. What are humanity's terms? Chen's expression softened slightly. The same as when we arrived. Partnership, not dominance. We recognize the value of the stability the hegemony has maintained. We have no desire to disrupt it, only to enhance it. Together, we can address threats neither of us could manage alone. Such as this extragalactic presence you claim to have detected, asked Kizther, who had recovered his composure if not his dignity. Exactly, Chen confirmed. Our scientists believe they represent a civilization that has transcended conventional physical limitations.